Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode three. Uh, it's funny, I just had a live stream go dead on me because of copyright infringement, which I don't know why I flagged the live stream. Um, I don't know what I said that triggered it, but it took my live stream down. So I'm gonna actually try to record this session and post it as opposed to um, doing it live. So and this might be a new trend in that way. So um, in today's episode, we're going to talk about mission and vision. The purposes of talking about those is most planning comes as a result of even an implicit, which is why these steps are important, even an implicit mission and a vision. Again, whether or not you are a organizational leader, a CEO, a COO, a CTO, whose responsibilities are broad, a CIO, and therefore the whole organization, or maybe you're responsible for a department or a division or a group or a team or even yourself, right? All long term planning starts with a mission and a vision, whether implied or not. So, this is an important process. And in fact, I would argue all planning is really about and we'll talk about this in other episodes, is really about the practice of doing explicitly what frequently is being done on the fly or implicitly. Um, and in many ways, that's just because human nature isn't just near term focused, right? So as we're processing these, as we talked about in the previous video, shorter termed, uh, the immediate term, again, whatever that immediate term means to you, short term may mean 6 months or a year if your transaction is that long. It may mean 5 minutes. Again, if the coffee shop bagel, analogy, if people are walking into your store and spending 5 minutes per transaction, right, that's your short term. And you have a whole train of those, right? But the busier you are, the less able you are to get ahead of that, to focus on the long term, right? So in this case, you're always, as a human, focusing on the long term. The question is, are you stopping to do so intentionally, thoughtfully, and potentially collaboratively? We're going to talk about this in most episodes because, um, again, an organization of one person, or if you're doing this for yourself because you're wanting to be more intentional with your own time uh, in the long term view, it should be known that most of what we're going to talk about um, is it has its highest and best use or biggest. It's solving most problems when you are having to collaborate with people. That's not to say it's not valuable individually, as I said, and I've said before, but I'll say again, this does apply. If you're an individual contributor and you're trying to, or you own a business and it's a business of one, I think it's still valuable even when you're not having to collaborate because I think if you can be thoughtful uh, and intentional, then that will translate to long-term effectiveness. But mission and vision um, frequently is talked about actually in the context of communication. So I've thought about it, I've written it down, and I'm broadcasting it out, right? So we are going to talk this week or today actually about mission and vision, in particular what they are, because I can tell you when you start planning and you think, oh, I need a mission and a vision, or you start an organization and you've heard these terms, this can be the very first step when you immediately think, well, A, what am I doing? I know I need to do this, but what does it mean to do it? Um, and B, this feels mysterious, artistic. I know I need mission and I know I need vision, but what does that look like? And when am I done? And is it good or bad? And have I accomplished what I set out to accomplish? These are all questions that, again, for a new planner, can either be arresting or freewheeling. Either way, it's less intentionality or it's a less ability to move through the process cleanly than what I'm hoping you'll get out of this. So again, this session today, I hope it demystifies it a little bit and provides some clarity. So let's talk about them. Mission and vision. By the way, vision always follows mission, meaning mission first, then vision. Why? Well, because they answer basically two questions that feed one another. The first question, the answer to that becomes the input for the next question, meaning the mission you create feeds the vision that you create. So it's difficult to do either of these things separate from each other. You can do mission first because it is the first step. But if you're starting thinking you're going to start with vision, as I said earlier, you're implying a mission. So ironically, you can start with vision, but again, that's back to the whole intentionality aspects. If you're wanting to be intentional and therefore focused on the long term, with an ability to hopefully accomplish longer term goals, right? The need to start with mission, even if you're writing down what is largely well understood or known, because again, it moves from implicit to explicit, from ambiguous to concrete, and so the idea would be mission leads to vision. So let's talk about a Meech. What questions are they answering? What question does the mission component of a plan, which is again arguably the very very first step in long-term planning, answers this simple question: what problem are we solving? Now, you might say, well, that's somewhat negative to focus on the problem, but yeah, I mean, if you stop and think about it, almost every long-term endeavor is seeking to serve in some way and meet a need. So if you want to think about it in needs, in terms of needs and not problems, what need am I meeting? What problem am I solving? You could ask the question in reverse. If we didn't exist, what would happen? Presumably something negative. Hopefully, if you're serving the market and or serving your role or serving your department or serving your organization well, if you didn't exist in this role, if your organization didn't exist in the market, if your department didn't exist in the organization, what would happen? Presumably something negative, because you're providing value. So what do you think those negative things would be? Or again, like I said at the first time, what problem are you solving? What need are you meeting? So that's mission. So if you can frame that now, I'm going to dig into this in a minute after I talk about vision. But mission and mission statement are not the same thing. I mean, they're related, but having a documented mission and having a documented mission statement they serve related, but really ultimately two different purposes. And so we'll talk about that. So these are two different things. So when I say mission, I don't mean mission statement. It includes a mission statement, but it's not the total of what I mean. Vision, though, let's talk about the second question and the second component. Again, mission leads to vision. Vision answers the question, what will it mean or look like when we serve that need, or when we meet that need, or when we solve that problem? What will it look like? And again, that's bounded to the scope of what you're talking about. If you're talking about an organization serving a market, what will it look like on the other side of that? What are the outcomes that become accomplished? Now you could get a little bit overly prescriptive with what I'm saying and say, well, okay, so if the problems identified in mission are met, then basically vision is the inverse of the mission. All problems are met. Not exactly. So what you're really trying to do is in the vision capture, you will have met the need or accomplished, solved the problem in your mission. Your vision says for yourself, or again, we said it earlier, much of this is a communication act. So for you and the other people who will presumably consume the vision, read the vision, what will it look like when we win? And again, this is not, I'll say what I said on mission. Vision and vision statement are not the same thing. So when I say vision, I don't mean the vision statement. So two different things. Mission, what problem are we solving? Vision, what will it look like after we solve it? And what will it look like? It is bounded to the scope. Again, organization, it's probably a market. Department, it's probably the organization. A team, it's probably the department. Individual, it's probably the team, or just your role. So those are the two. That's what they are. Now, real quickly, because I don't want to go as long as we went yesterday, trying to keep these to under 10 minutes. Mission can be comprised of, or when you document mission, it can be comprised of a mission statement. Now, frequently, because people think of mission statement and mission as the same thing, they'll just start writing a mission statement. That's okay, but my recommendation is write your mission first and then use the mission statement as a summary of everything you wrote in your mission. So let's talk about what a mission is. If it's not a mission statement, what is a mission? Well, a mission is a summary of answering the question, but I think frequently people go to the summary, the tagline piece, the mission statement, that 1 to 2 sentences or less that describe the mission. And the problem with that is you get cute. You rely on abstractions, and so we will talk about this in other episodes. But planning thrives well, or when you plan well, you live a balance between just enough detail and not too much, not too little. So not too much detail, not too little detail. And frequently, when all you end up in planning with is a mission statement, you don't have enough detail. In your mind, you've rolled up a number of assumptions or statements or qualifiers, or frequently, if you're solving a market problem, you have to convince your audience sometimes that that's a real problem. Like, ahead of even talking about your organization in that problem, you have to, and so one of the tools to do that is to write a position paper. Again, this is a 3 to 5 page, maybe less, could be more, of course, document that describes the problem and your position relative to it. Could be the organization's position, but it could be your as a leader or as a person leading in place in a given role. Again, two ends of a spectrum, but you might be writing about your position relative to the problem. Here's how I feel about this problem. Here's what I think about this problem. Here's why I think this is a problem. Again, sort of convincing your audience that this is a problem, and crystallizing for yourself. And again, you'll hear me oscillate between these two things. Again, a majority of planning, formal planning, is for the benefit of the whole, the group, others, people. You write down things so that others will consume them. But even if nobody ever reads anything you write, it crystallizes it for you. And therefore, you can be a better leader, you can be a better contributor if you know it concretely. And so this is where a position paper frequently can help at the most detailed level. A summary, which is generally 1 to 3 pages, probably wouldn't go any more than 3 pages, but probably 1 to 2 pages. Detailing your mission. Again, answering the question within mission, what problem are we solving? Again, establishing the case for the problem to some extent in the summary, but certainly talking about the problem. Here's the problem we're solving. To some extent, providing detailed or measurable data is helpful. Again, in planning, just enough detail, right? Not too much, not too little. I say not too much, right? Because plans have to change. They have to adapt. There's a very famous quote, plans are useless, planning's invaluable. Probably not exactly the quote, but that's the idea. Basically, the notion of planning, the idea of planning, the practice, the discipline of planning is invaluable, but plans will change. And so if you provide so much detail, if you provide a 35-page, a 50-page position paper or summary of your mission, you might have done well in terms of documenting detail, but you won't have served the future because your mission may need to tweak over time. The problem statement may need to tweak over time. So establish a summary. I would argue write that first. If you need to help explain the problem in terms of the market or in terms of whatever the scope is for what you're planning, then you may need to write a position paper or two, kind of helping rationalize the problem. And then lastly, once you've got your summary, 1 to 3 pages, probably 1 to 2, then write your mission statement. And your mission statement is 1 to 2 sentences, usually less-ish. I mean, if you can get sort of a full sentence, say, I don't know, anywhere from 7 to 12 words, 15 words, somewhere around in there, that's a solid mission statement. And again, answers the problem, or answers the question, what problem are we solving? Same framework applies to vision, just a different question. What will it look like? Outcomes accomplished, lives or experiences changed. Again, it does relate to your problem statement. So this is where I say write your mission and then write your vision. They flow from each other, and so they anchor each other, right? So you don't get into this situation where even if you do it in that order, right? If you think about them as disconnected, it's easy to sort of, okay, I've got my mission done. I'm going to launch into writing my vision. And what you do is you Google, right? It's like, what are some other vision statements? And then you kind of you back into what a company or what an organization or what a role's vision might be, a product even, right? And the problem with that is if they've written their vision well, you're only seeing half the story. You're not seeing the mission. And again, they may not have documented it. It may be implicit to them, which I would argue is a miss, or at least is a miss if you're trying to be intentional in your planning. So document mission, document vision. Mission says, what problem are we solving? Vision says, what will it look like and mean when we solve it? See you tomorrow.